Thank you, Ron. It's hard to get up from these days. Okay. Joshin, did you want to say anything?
May the sacred presence of the one who said he would abide in his teachings be our guide. May we follow his glorious example and tread with unfaltering steps this noble path until we too shall attain enlightenment. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom, Dhamma, Prajna, Parvata.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear you. Okay, so the precept is do not indulge anger, cultivate equanimity. So what I want to say first of all is that anger is a natural human condition. It is a physiological condition, one of the four main emotions, which are love, anger, grief, and fear. And when we have anger, there is a physiological adrenaline that lasts for about 90 seconds. Anything after the 90 seconds is the story that we have in our head about it. So if we don't cultivate it, then the adrenaline would just calm back down again. But most of us have a story in our head that keeps it going more than the 90 seconds worth. So there are various reports from different people in terms of cultivating equanimity or in not indulging anger. The first thing is that anger generally implies that we have a self, that there is an ego involved, and that if we want to not indulge anger, the first part of the anger is just there. If we have the story, then we're indulging it more than that. In terms of being able to dissipate it, one thing is to recognize that it's ourself, our ego. Got that, our ego?
I heard.
We had a discussion this afternoon. The ego, if the ego gets involved, that's the self, and it is not real. So the anger being part of the anger experience is tapping into that ego self, and that's not a real self. I mean, that's the story part of it. One of the things that, well, Thich Nhat Hanh, the book Anger, and also the Shantideva is reported to indicate that compassion is the countermeasure. So where anger is a natural reaction, a natural expression in our bodies, compassion is the counter to that, but it has to be cultivated. Most of us do not naturally express compassion, just, oh, I'm angry, oh, I'm full of compassion. So most of us have to cultivate that, and that's usually through mindfulness, that we have to recognize what's going on, that in fact, oh, there's a story going on, my ego is getting offended, you said something and I don't like it, or whatever it is. And when I can mindfully switch over to compassion, I may be able to just calm that down and listen to what's really going on. Now, I think it's funny, I didn't read all of this again, but when I read this book before, Thich Nhat Hanh says, and I find it amazing that anybody could do this, and say, darling, I'm angry, please help me. And that's lovely. But usually it's the darling that I'm angry at, so it seems very unlikely that I would be able to say, please forgive, please help me, I'm angry, please help me. But good old Thich Nhat Hanh says that's what we could do. Kyogen said that not contriving reality for the self implies a self or ego. So in order to not be angry, we need to not contrive reality for the self. So this ego that I have is not real. It's just in my head. It's come with me for the last 70 plus years, and it's there, but it's not real. And so Kyogen was saying that we need to counteract that ego, realizing that it's not real, it's not the truth of our being, and the work we do to justify our anger. So myself feels offended or triggered in some way, and again, it takes a lot of mindfulness to be able to go immediately into, this is not the reality, it's just my ego that's getting triggered. And when I can let that go, then presumably I would be able to switch into compassion, whatever it is that is triggering me. And I need to remember that it is a trigger, it's my trigger. So some things that might make you angry might not make me angry at all. But if it hits my trigger, then I'm going to get angry. And my trigger is my responsibility. I'm the only one that put it there, and I'm the only one that can get rid of it. So recognizing that there is a trigger there, and I sometimes am able to recognize that, that I'm able to at least calm it down a bit. So the brilliancy of clouds, Kyogen talks about it in terms of it being, there is no reality in the brilliant sea of clouds. But there's also the idea that clouds move, they move along. They don't just stay there, they move. And so presumably, if we could wait a bit, the clouds are going to move, and then there's the sunshine again. And one of the things that I recognize, that I think of, especially if I'm up in an airplane, is that when we're going up, there are clouds, and then you get up above the clouds and the sunshine again. So the clouds are just there. They're not permanent, they're not everywhere, they're not everything. And so the fact that there is a brilliancy of clouds, that may be just my reality at that point. And it doesn't seem like I need to do much about it. I mean, if I can say, well, that's just my reality, it's not the truth, then I may be able to move through it more easily. So the key to the precept is not contriving reality for the self. Now that sounds pretty easy, just don't contrive any reality for the self, and we'll all just be blissful. But the problem arises when we define and justify a self, an ego in here. And when I hear the phrase in my own head, it's not fair, I know that I'm about 5 years old at that point. That voice inside of me is about 5 years old, and it's not fair. And I can recognize that now, that is just a part of my ego self that's coming up with that. So going into some of what Thich Nhat Hanh says, anger is not only a mental reality, because the physical and mental are linked to each other. So he goes into a lot of the body-mind, when I feel the physical aspect of the anger, there's a physical, mental part that go together with that. And I don't know if you're familiar with Thich Nhat Hanh's 5 precepts. So the 5th one is mindful consumption. And he makes a strong point about what we consume, whether it's physically actually eating something or putting ourselves, I will not watch violent movies. It's like, that's not good consumption for me. And so a lot of the consumption may be of a emotional nature. It may not be not just eating, but recognizing that the consumption of anger feeds our anger. And again, he's talking about the counterbalance is compassion. When we can recognize it, we can move to compassion. Not just for the other person that's making the situation that's making me angry, but for myself, that that's not a good situation for me to be angry. I don't like being angry. I don't feel good when I'm angry. And so if I can move into mindfulness in any way, hopefully I can move to compassion, but in any event, I will feel better myself by having recognized that. We cannot speak about anger and how to handle our anger without paying attention to all of the things that we consume. And again, that's whether it's emotional or physical. Mindful breathing, these are his ways of getting through some of that. Mindful breathing, mindful walking, embracing our anger, looking deeply into the nature of our perceptions. So all of those are ways of moving through the anger when we do experience it. And then there are 2 phases of this. One is embracing and recognizing the anger, and then looking deeply into the nature of our anger to see how it has come about. So these are all ideas from different teachers and all about what to do with anger. So it's physiological. It's we are able to counteract it by mindfulness and hopefully move it into compassion. So if I'm really angry about politics, then I may be able to, first of all, just be mindful, calm myself down, let go of the story, and then maybe be compassionate about what the situation is, that I can look at that. So that's kind of a starting place. So any questions or discussions?
I want to thank you for bringing up embracing anger. One of the things that I was afraid this discussion, one of the places I was afraid this discussion might go would be to avoid it altogether. And one of the things I've discovered is that if I don't let myself feel the emotion, if I don't let myself have those 90 seconds, then the anger lingers. It just goes underground. It comes back over and over.
And it's not healthy for us.
No, it isn't.
To hold anger in. I mean, it doesn't mean we spew it all out.
It doesn't
but
mean, embracing it doesn't mean
right.
giving it. It just means allowing yourself to feel it, giving yourself those 90 seconds to be emotional.
She'll say, darling, I'm angry, please help me.
I love the darling.
It's so like,
Darling,
it
I'm
sounds so
angry.
Hollywood or something.
You stupid cow.
I'm
I'm
also
angry.
glad you mentioned compassion, because the compassion, not just for the person that you're angry at and for what they're going through, but also for yourself.
Mhm.
For it's okay to feel angry, it's okay to be wounded, it's okay to,
For a little bit.
well, you don't want to drown in everything's, I don't deserve
Nobody
that,
likes me.
but you still want, it's okay that I'm angry, it's okay that I don't feel good about this, it's okay.
And maybe that part too is the compassion. Maybe like when you're using compassion to counteract the anger, you can use compassion on yourself, you know?
Mhm.
Like if you're angry about politics or something, you can, things that are going on in the world, you can be compassionate with yourself and say, you know what, things are really not great right now, and I don't know, just kind of like have some compassion, maybe, if it's hard, I don't know, this is a little thought.
It's okay to feel like this, it's okay to be
Yes.
unsettled, this is unsettling.
Yes.
Could we invite Peter or Joshin to if you
Comment?
comment?
They're passing, it looks like they're passing.
Okay,
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure.
Yes, just speak up if you got something,
Wave your hand.
so we know.
We get very selfish.
Yeah.
I had this thing where I was, had an appointment to get my car serviced, and something went wrong, and it was supposed to take an hour, and like 3 hours later, they still hadn't really started it. And I got all huffy about that, and just packed up my things and left, and they were really sorry, and I came back the next day, and made an appointment to come back the next day, and they were all like really nice to me. And I said, I just realized I wasn't really angry. I just thought that's how you're supposed to act in a situation like that. And I said that to them. Actually, what actually happened was I had my knitting, I had a good book, I had 3 hours where nobody bugged me about anything, and I got to knit and read, and it was a perfectly pleasant experience. But I thought, because I'm a human consumer, they should have had my car, And it just seemed so transparent to me. So I told the guy that when I came in. He just had the most astonished look on his face.
That's so funny.
I know.
Nancy, what spoke to you about this specific precept?
It was funny, when I opened the book to kind of look at stuff, I did this one last year and I had no recollection of it whatsoever. It was like 4/12/23. Oh,
Great talk. I really liked what you said about compassion being the antidote. I had another little short story. I was angry about some remodeling that was going on, and I was just building up this big head of steam towards this project manager person. And in my dream, I just unloaded on her. I was like, I have never heard such bullshit in my whole life. And in my dream, she started to cry. And it changed it for me. It was kind of sweet. Yeah. So thank you for that.
being a 12-step person, I'm very much aware of the Serenity Prayer. So I know that even if I'm angry or whatever is going on, serenity to accept the things I cannot change. The car is not ready yet, whatever it is, it just is. And if I can't change it, then I might as well just breathe into it and have some serenity, or change the things I can. So I mentioned one time to you a Buddhist statement that said, I accept the world just the way it is. And it's like, no, I don't want to accept it the way it is. But then I have since used that and added serenity to accept the things I can't change, because I can't change what's going on in Ukraine or Africa or Israel. courage to change the things I can, which may be in my neighborhood or somewhere around, and the wisdom to know the difference. So even in my own home, there are some things that I can change and some that I can't. And hopefully wisdom to know the difference there. Because for me, it makes a big difference in terms of my anger. If there's nothing I can do about it, it's probably better for me to walk away. My husband tends to get angry at times, and that's what he grew up with. I didn't. So he grew up with it, and it's become a pattern, and he's working really, really hard on getting rid of that. But I'm confronted with it, which means that I have to notice the trigger. Sometimes it doesn't trigger me at all, and I kind of laugh, and that really makes him angry.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
And I've been thinking that I'm practicing mindfulness for 12 years that I've been here. I don't know how long it takes to get to be mindful, but.
Maybe Joshi knows we should.
Oh, Joshi, how long does it take to become mindful?
It takes as long as it takes.
Oh.
Ooh, that's so sad. Oh my gosh.
You're always mindful once you become mindful. I mean, if you are doing mindfulness, are you always mindful?
Well, sure, I'm not.
I'm not. I mean, yes, maybe I'm mindful sometimes.
And more and more, I'm able to recognize my triggers.
No, I appreciate, the serenity prayer, and I think it's really helped me, because like I could be angry at the whole car situation that I have. I had to spend the whole day in Sandy. I had all this stuff to do, and oh well, that's just the way it is. I wasn't planning to spend the whole day in Sandy kind of thing.
See, you should have had your knitting in a good book.
I should have. But I was driving my car to go for a walk, and I didn't have knitting in a good book, and then I realized I had to have the car towed in, so I did not have anything. I didn't go to my house, but, who would I be angry at? The car? Myself? That's it.
Okay, so it's $20.
Potion.
Any last comment, and then we'll turn it over to Shokei.
I really
Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, it's a great talk. Thank you.
Let me see if I can scoot this around.
I was gonna put my chair next to her.
Perfect.
Why don't
Yes,
I
that
just
would be
switch
great.
with you?
And then since it's recording, it'll be nice to see your face.
I'm so impressed, see the way you can sit. Just folding your legs up. Are you sure?
If you don't get enlightened faster, that's what
Really? I thought
I don't
that's
know
what
that from personal experience, but it's
Love
See if I can read my notes. I really made 3 different presentations. So far. In the realm of do not defame the 3 treasures, it stops there. What's different about this 10th precept from the other 9? I'll read it again.
It doesn't tell you.
Do not defame the 3 treasures.
Yeah, there's no little counter. There's no
There's
pause.
no counterweight.
Yeah.
Is that these other precepts are saying don't do this, don't do that, but these things that they're talking about are pretty concrete. 90 seconds of anger.
But don't defame the,
Don't defame the three treasures. Do not defame the three treasures. I got really hung up on the word defame, but the position of this in here is a capping verse to the whole 9 yards. It started really just after contrition. Just the bit just after contrition and I fully avow was taking refuge in the three treasures. And so everything in between these two bookmarks of three treasures is how to do it. And well, it's interesting because to me it doesn't make sense. I've been through all these other precepts, and I'm getting ready to do Jukai. The whole place is called Kyojukaiman. The Jukai part. You're getting ready, if you're going to be taking Jukai, to say in the how does it go? At any rate, here we have these instructions, and it is pretty clear when it says respect the Buddha, unfold the Dharma, nourish the Sangha. That's sort of a footnote here. But that's the part to me that makes sense. The part that doesn't make sense is if you go through all this, how could you possibly be tempted to slander or denigrate or defame all these precepts that you just finished reciting? It does not compute. Rev Anderson, in talking about this, takes the Chinese character, tells you, yes, it means intentionally slander, intentionally say bad things about something. And he says, well, all that means is that if you consider trespassing on any of the 9 previous, you have defamed any little bit of straying from the straight and narrow is a defamation of the whole thing. And he takes it. To me, defame has an intention. How do you prove defamation in court? It's the intention. And anyway, I find the scholars turning things around in order to make them fit.
Yeah.
To do something by ourselves without copying others is to become an example to the world, and the merit of this becomes a source of all wisdom. And that's pretty darn clear, isn't it? Nobody else can do all this taking of refuge. And Hogan has an interesting article about Sangha's practice, in which he says nobody else can do this. Well, let me lead up to that. He goes into three areas. First of all, the three treasures Buddha Sangha and Buddha Dharma Sangha are concretely there in our history. But for Zen, the Buddha is a lowercase b. It's the whole awakened mind, and there's an interesting way he describes that. The Dharma is the truth that goes with this awakening, and the Sangha is the connection with everything that's around us. The three gems are then the practice of recognizing the Buddha in everything, the Dharma as more than just the scriptures, but rather the daily work. And the Sangha is, you can't get along without it. You need the Sangha and the teachers, or you're really up shit creek. That's the easy part of Dogen's explanation. And he says that Zen, you need to know that the samadhi and karma are important parts of the whole thing. The samadhi power comes from a shift in as you're sitting zazen and the thoughts come through, or even if you're not in zazen but walking and the thoughts come through, what are they coming through? Can you imagine that the things that are acting on you are coming through ether? And can you turn your attention from the things to the ether itself, to the background noise? Ethereal mean anything?
Yeah.
Okay, then ether being the all, yeah, that's all in German. And these little events move through you, move at you, move in your mind. It relates to anger, but of course it relates to all the other things too. And your practice is to notice that. This last precept is calling you to practice the other precepts, basically. And this relates to something you were talking about too, that criticize nothing except everything. These things occur to you. This is life. Something happens. The car is more broken than I thought it was. I've been using Tara Brock's training in rain. You recognize that something has happened, but you don't jump on it. You don't respond to it. You recognize it, and then you allow it to be okay. And maybe it's the 90 seconds thing. You recognize it, and then you don't respond real quick. And then you have a chance, if you've not blown it at that point by then. This happens all the time. And So her reign is recognize something has happened. The A is allow it to be there. And the I is investigate. The N is nurture it if it's worth nurturing. But the investigation may be your chance to say, I'm not gonna go there. This may require assistance from somebody in Sangha, a teacher, or something like that. But it is, in the sense, another way of saying criticize nothing, don't throw it out, accept it, and then maybe something will happen so you can deal with it. So I kind of like that. I don't like the no concept of ordinary beings and sages, because to me that doesn't make any sense. I can find somebody else who has an interpretation for that. You got one?
So that the last part. Did you read that last part?
This little bit that says whole in the realm of the one. There's a clue there. The one is capitalized. Mm-hmm. In the realm of the one, holding no concept of ordinary beings and sages is the precept of not defaming the three treasures.
Two things come up there for me. One is if you meet Buddha on the road, kill Buddha. And then the story with Kyogen saying, well, what do I call you? Sir, honor, is it, I'll pay you?
I didn't know.
The story Kyogen, that I've heard that Kyogen told, but people ask me how to greet him. Do I call you Abbot? Do I call you Your Honor? And he said, well, hey, you will work.
Hey, I see. Okay. So ordinary people are sages are also ordinary people.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's like the way I've always thought of that, which I really like that, is that I always thought of it like, you can be enlightened as the same as Siddhartha Gautama or Kyogen,
Okay.
You have the same potential for enlightenment.
Okay.
You don't, anybody has the same potential.
Okay, I had trouble with the word concept, but I see the point. Makes sense.
You can study forever and not be any closer to, I mean, I don't speak for, thus I've heard.
Thus I've heard.
And not be any closer to enlightenment than, a child of 10.
A child of 10
might be closer.
Yeah.
Or a child of 90. Or a child of 84 and a half. Yeah.
And also, even people who aren't enlightened, are in every way just lay people, can have the greatest drama and wisdom come from them. Mm-hmm. Whereas your greatest sage can have feet of clay and end up, I don't know, espousing torture for you.
Nice phrasing. Yeah, so I had a lot of fun with this, and in spite of reading a whole lot of stuff and spending a whole lot of time with it, I'm no sage.
I loved what you said about this being a capping verse.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that's perfect.
Capping verse.
It holds it together.
It does. It holds it together.
I mean, to me, capping verse is this.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you guys have any Zoomers have anything to say about this?
You know what jumped out for me was that when I look around the room, when I think about Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, I look around the room and I instantly think, this is it, right here, us, right? But then when you were talking, I was thinking, we individually, one-on-one, I can't imagine arguing with any of you, getting impatient with any of you. This is where I get my Dharma, I get it from my teachers, it all seems so real and concrete right here. But then we walk out the door, and like with my precept, and I was fully being transparent on what a turd I was, I wouldn't have done that with any of you. So when you were saying, we've got these precepts here, we have these bookends, and if we screw up any of them, we're defaming those three. It was almost like this, like, I don't know, why is it here? I'm not going to defame any of it, but I go out. It's like, why isn't out there just as real as it is right here? That's what was coming up for me.
I'm guessing, just guessing, but my guess would be for you, it is much of the time, but who's perfect? I mean, you're gonna get angry sometimes, and I'm sure if you spend enough time with any of us, you get pissed.
Also, most people I've observed have different ways of behaving based on the environment they're in.
If you're in the library, you're quiet. If you're somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think it's interesting. I mean, working with the public, so, I feel like my interactions with people out there those are my teachers, because those are the moments where I do get angry, or I do talk about somebody behind their back, or whatever. Like, you do all these things, and then you're given the opportunity to do the counter thing, the little pause and counter thing. So it's a lesson, like it's a learning opportunity to learn how to do this stuff, because otherwise, like you wouldn't do it, like everything would be too perfect. And I think it's true. I think if we were living together, I mean, I'm sure Joshin could probably speak to this, having lived in a situation, like you're even like the most, it just seems like you would still find things, like just, yeah, like it would just, I don't know.
You're absolutely right, Nick. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, if we were all living together, not just coming here for,
I
there would be all these little things that would go, oh, that irritates me.
And I think I'm be pretty sure that you do carry this out in the world with you.
Oh, I do.
Most of the
I
time,
do.
but,
I absolutely
Yeah.
try my hardest to live my practice, but I don't know, that's what it was coming up. It was like every bit of it,
Maybe there's this way we could all like expand the Sangha.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really a beautiful idea because oh boy, there sure is a lot of anger out there, and you know what I mean? Like it seems like it would be really nice to be able to go out there and, yeah.
Well, when you think about it, I mean, if we went into every interaction with anybody out there, before you even open your mouth, say they're part of my Sangha,
Yeah.
you'd probably react very different in that
Right.
moment. I mean, even when you were saying politics, I was thinking, when I stop and when I'm angry, when this anger is coming up about politics, when I stop and try to step back and go, why are they acting like that? Then I can logically think about all the reasons why they're acting like that. Why are they angry? Why are they acting like that? Why are they responding like that? Then I can find that compassion.
I'm going to switch back could you read the part about the second statement that goes to do by yourself, something like that?
To do something by ourselves without copying others is to become an example to the world. And the merit of this becomes a source of all wisdom.
So is that just our individual, go out in the world and be nice to somebody? I mean, that always kind of puzzled
To
me.
do so.
Like, it's either too obvious or it's something bigger that I'm not getting.
I think it's talking about to understand something the way I do is different from the way and it's okay that it's different. Kogan's example is when he was in the monastery, I think. He was assigned Sanzen, and a person came to him and presented a problem that he had no idea how to work with. But he referred this person to another person who said to him later, "We hit it off and it worked beautifully." The next week, this is Kyogen's story. The next week, a person comes to him and with a story that needed some elaboration. Kyogen and he talked about it, and he said, "You are a very wise person. Because I presented this to other teachers, and I've never gotten anywhere with it except with you." And Kyogen said, "You should have been here last week." And I think that's what he means by the merit of this becomes the source of all wisdom. That you can understand your own take on things that's going to be enough different from somebody else's that it's noticeable. I don't want to carry that point too far, but I think that's what's going on here.
To me, it's just a plain statement of fact. Yeah.
Yeah, like when I hear that, I hear, I personally, this is what I hear. I just hear, because this is my lesson, I guess. Don't follow somebody blindly, like just don't
Do something on
just
your own.
don't follow a belief or something, a guru or whoever, blindly. Like understand for yourself like what you believe in, because that's,
And do it because it's what you believe is right.
Yeah.
That's immediately followed by criticize nothing, which is where then I'm taking the word criticize and changing it just a little bit. The way I understand it is, wait a minute, this is not this, and accept everything. I'm not accepting everything in order to believe it, but I'm accepting it in order to examine it.
Yeah, right. That's a great
Love
point.
that.
Yes.
That's a good one.
That's important.
Acceptance, because, like the 12 Steps programs talk a lot about acceptance. And some people say, I cannot accept a lot of stuff. Well, you don't accept,
You don't accept it uncritically.
you take it, and then, like, people would talk about abuse, if you were in an abusive relationship. You accept, I am in an abusive relationship. What can I do about it? Not, oh, I guess I just have to accept that I'm in it.
It's a problematical word.
It is
And
problematic.
it's just about the word. It doesn't mean condone. It just means,
Right.
reality doesn't care if you accept it or not.
Criticize nothing, accept everything, but think about it as something. Take that with you for this week.
Yeah, that's good.
I like that rain thing, I had forgotten about that, the R-A-I-N.
Yeah. Tara Brock, B-R-A-C-H.
Word 816, guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we should do our thing. Who wants to?
Abiding in this ephemeral world, like a lotus in muddy water, the mind is pure and goes beyond, as we bow to Buddha. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all honored ones, bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom, love, Prajna, Paramita.
Okay.
Thank you. Tonight
That
was
was
great.
Good,
Thank
you
you.
guys are great.
It was great.
Yeah,
Good night,
really
everybody.
Peter, hi. Oh, I missed Debbie. It sounds so rich to hear everybody doing all of this together.
It is, yeah, it does. Oh, it just, well, that's the way I felt when we all started saying the
Yeah,
Serenity
she
Prayer
has
together.
hers, but I don't know if anybody else does.
God,
That's
so,
it's got some power.
so amazing.
Because that was my first.
Instead of doing it in the Serenity Prayer on Zoom.
Where's the chairs go?
I was sitting
They all come out the door, you'll see.
You want me to take that chair?
Let me just try to love the idea. Excellent. I gotta remember that. I really like that. You know, changing out what it's about. It is, but they're all going home in my car anyway. Gosh, that was so fast, it's all.
Is this getting a little loud? It gets a little.
Yeah, exactly.
Where does it go? Is it?
Just sit over there and we'll.
The cushions, the zappies.
Okay.
I really liked your talk, Nancy, that was great.
How are you feeling these days, Renee?
What?
How are you feeling these days?
I'm feeling good and I'm tired today. And I think it's just the stress of,
We had a long day.
yeah,
We had a long
I
day.
just, otherwise I'm, keeping good and that
Good. Well, not good that your back's bothering,
No,
but good
but-
that there's nothing else going on.
yeah, no, now where is stuff going?
Just kind of put stuff together here and we'll figure it out. I'm not quite sure.
So they,
I know
I put
there's
the zappoos and the benches all in that basket, and all the rest of the miscellaneous stuff in the other basket. Like the champ books would go in that basket. This just goes by itself. The lights and all that go in this one. This one will just go in loose.
I'm kind of thinking we have so many knitters, we need to have like a Saturday morning at, yeah, Wy'East, we can meet at Ant Farm or,
Is your car right outside?
My car didn't get to be right outside, but it's not too far, it's a couple of cars up.
Takeo, do you like shut this off or what do you, just shut the,
Just close the.
close the lid?
Close that lid.